I knew this day was coming for a long time. I've been in denial about it. If you are interested in purchasing any of my designer bags or shoes or clothing, my IG is in the description box below, which is where I will be selling these items. If you're interested, DM me. Make sure you're DMing me from a legit Instagram page, because if it looks sus, I am not going to hit you back up. In this video, I will be discussing why I'm letting go of all of my designer items. So if you're interested, please keep watching. Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Naily by Nature. I'm your host, Naily. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking to you guys about why I am selling all of my designer items and what's next for me. I am starting a new chapter. If you're interested in any of the designer items that I will be selling, in the description box I listed my Instagram, so hit me up if you're interested in any of the items. So why am I selling all of my designer items? There's a few reasons. I'll start with the first reason. With everything that's happening in the world right now, people are rising up against their government. There's a lot of atrocities happening in a lot of countries. Watching things unfold with the Israeli-Palestinian war and seeing how the US media is silent, how celebrities are silent, how social elite and social influencers are silent while people are being killed, while people are being dragged out of their homes, while injustice is blatantly happening. It made me start questioning why the media has been silent and why people are not speaking out against the injustice that are happening to the Palestinian people and to a lot of Arab Muslims all around the world, in Syria, Yemen, the Uyghur Muslims in China. There has been so much atrocities happening to Arab Muslims and Muslims all around the world. There's also so much happening in places like Colombia and Ethiopia, and people are not talking about it, and the US media is barely covering it. And so it started with me really questioning why there is barely any coverage on this, and like why I have to go on YouTube and seek other sources to really understand what's happening on the ground in these places. I was wondering why celebrities are so afraid to speak out on what's happening to Palestinians and to Arab Muslims all around the world. And I realized that this is an incredibly political situation. Speaking about what's happening to people, especially the poorest people in the world, has become a political issue. And by calling out and condemning the injustice that is happening to Palestinian people, the ethnic cleansing that is happening to Palestinian people, it is causing celebrities to lose their livelihood. You can literally lose your livelihood by aligning yourself with Palestinians and saying, hey, these Palestinian people are being treated unfairly. These Palestinian people are being exterminated. There is an ethnic cleansing that is happening. And by aligning yourself with what's happening and speaking out, you can lose your career. You can lose your job. You can lose a bag. And how exactly are these celebrities and social influencers going to lose their livelihood? It's through fashion deals. It's through brand deals. It's through contracts. It's these owners of these brands, these huge brands, and these production companies that have so much power because they accumulated so much wealth. And it made me wonder how much a brand, a fashion house, a huge fashion house worth. Is it overvalued? And the truth is, these fashion houses are incredibly overvalued. Some of the biggest fashion houses are owned by Frenchmen, and these Frenchmen are multi-billionaires. France is one of the most racist and Islamophobic countries. France literally just came out with a law that a woman under the age of 18 cannot wear a hijab. That is so Islamophobic as fuck. And none of these huge French fashion houses condemn those actions. People of color spend so much money on designer items. In 2021, the US spent the most money on fashion, clothing, and designer items. Second place was China, and third place was Japan. These huge fashion houses have been slammed so many times throughout the years for their racist behavior and their blatant negligence on hiring more people of color into those industries. These mega billion-dollar designers never condemn or speak out about the injustices that are happening to people all over the world. It's so interesting to me that France would pass such an Islamophobic law, considering the fact that when I went to Paris in 2019 and I was shopping in Chanel, and the store was full of women from the UAE, and they had bags of Hermes and they were shopping for Chanel, and they all were in hijabs. And now when I reflect on that, I feel so stupid, and I feel so stupid for those women. Like, we are literally giving our money to a organization, to a company, to a brand who does not give a fuck about us. Most people understand that there is only a small group of people who are running the show in the world. Like, they're deciding what war is going to happen, they're funding the wars, they're taking people's land, they're killing people. Like, it's a small group of people who are managing what's happening in the world. And we, the people, have to understand that we are participating in putting those people in power. So when we give our money to these huge fashion labels and they're multi-billionaires, these are the small group of people who are running shit. Celebrities and social elites are literally so afraid to speak about what's happening in Israel and Palestine because they know it will lose them their job. It's so incredibly sad to see. These fashion houses have accumulated so much power and wealth, and we, the people, the consumers, are responsible for giving them that power. French fashion labels are extremely overvalued, and I realize it's so overvalued that it's costing human life. The inability to call out the injustice and the ethnic cleansing that is happening to Palestinian people in fear that you are going to lose a contract or a fashion deal, it's so fucking sad and sick. And I realized that I have been participating in this really fucked up system, and I feel like I can no longer participate in it. Buying designer items was a huge accomplishment for me growing up. When I was younger, I remember in like the 6th grade, you know, my parents, they didn't have a lot of money, and you know, I knew they struggled to provide for me and my brothers and sisters. So I used to hate, you know, really asking them for anything. And I remember I used to have like 5 pair of pants, and I used to rotate them every week. And I remember in 6th grade, this girl just like called me out for wearing the same pants. And she did it in front of the entire class. And I just remember feeling so embarrassed and so humiliated. And in my head, I was just like, ugh, I fucking hate being poor. I was just so upset and sad and hurt. And I was like, you know, one day when I grow up, I'm going to never wear the same pants again. I was like, I'm going to make sure that, you know, I look nice, and I'm going to buy whatever I want, and I'm going to make it. And that really made me hustle. I got my first job when I was like 13 because of being bullied. I used to work for the summer youth program so that, you know, I could have some money and buy myself nice things so that, you know, during the school year I could look nice and I wouldn't be bullied. And I remember in high school, like my sophomore year, I worked really hard to buy these pair of construction boots from Timberland, and I bought them with my summer job. And I remember like I wore them all the time, and so they got dirty. And I remember after school, these kids were just like making fun of my Timberlands, and they were like, it's so dirty, it's so dusty. And they just like went in on my shoes. And I felt like, oh my God, fuck this. And I just remember one of my good friends, like after everyone finished making fun of me, like we were walking to the train, and she was just like, don't listen to them. Like, don't care about what they say. But it was so hard for me at the time to like not internalize it and feel shame. When people make fun of you for not having nice things, it's hard to not feel like you are not enough. It's hard to not feel inadequate. And I feel like I spent a lot of my life, you know, chasing experiences that could really cover up how I was feeling, you know, just trying to not feel inadequate anymore and trying to prove to myself that I was worthy. I know I talked about this in some of my previous videos about like how growing up poor, you know, you grow up feeling insecure. You're clothing insecure, you're food insecure, your environment insecure. And so you chase these experiences, you chase material things to kind of make you feel whole. But at this juncture in my life, I can no longer use that experience to validate why I'm buying overvalued items, because I've learned to love myself exactly as I am. You know, I don't need to buy material things to make myself feel good. I learned to love myself in all of my being. You know, I learned to love the bad stuff, the good stuff, and I'm constantly evolving, and I'm on this journey, and I no longer need the validation of, you know, material items or the recognition from other people that I am worthy and that I am enough and that I look good, because I know I look good. You know, I have high self-esteem, and this is without anything that's outside of me. I found new ways to love myself, and I know my self-worth. I don't need Chanel or Cartier to cover up how I'm feeling. It took a long time for me to get to this place, to this moment. I always knew at some point in the back of my mind, I always knew that I was going to sell all of my designer stuff, because even when I would be purchasing it, in the back of my mind, there was always this thing that was just like, this is so not fucking worth it. But I just covered up that feeling. And I think I did that because it's really hard to confront yourself. It's hard to face the truth, because if you face the truth, you have to admit that you're part of the problem. You have to admit that you are participating in the problem by giving my hard-earned dollars to companies who literally do not give a fuck about people of color. We buy material things to make a statement. I have this item and I feel good because it is a product of where I am in life. I feel like life has become a flex, and we really value how hard someone can flex. We value celebrities who are billionaires because we value money, instead of valuing people who give up their life for public service. It's so difficult for me to process how there are so many living billionaires right now, and how there are so many people who have more than enough, like completely more than enough. And there are some people in this world who are having their basic human rights being taken away from them, their homes taken away from them, people who are being murdered, and it's always the poorest people who have to pay the price. You know, people are dying for things. People are dying so that other people can have things. Right now, a Jewish man from New York has more rights than a Palestinian. That to me makes no sense.
Jacob, you know this is not your house.
Yes, but if I go, you don't go back. So what's the problem? Why are you yelling at me? I didn't do this.
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is gonna steal it.
No one is allowed to steal it, ya ammi.
He's been living in an additional part of Muna's house for over 10 years after being recruited by a US-based company called Nahalat Shimon International, which owns the property under Israeli law.
How did you end up here?
It's a long story. Basically, I needed to move from where I was, and my friend was very, very active in this neighborhood. And he said, you can stay here for the time being.
Do you pay rent?
I have an arrangement with the owners of the house. I don't want to get into personal arrangements and rents and things, but yes, I'm a tenant here. I have no ownership over this property.
You're from Brooklyn?
No, I'm from New York, from Long Island.
From New York. What right do you have to live here?
The right I have is that the owner of the house wants me to live here, and he wants there to be Jews living in this house, and he wants to, and I got chosen for whatever reason. It ended up being me.
So why do you live here?
Because I live here, because it's important, and because not too many people want to live here, and it's important to strengthen this neighborhood, to make sure that...
When you remove the complexities of the situation in Israel and Palestine, and you take out culture and religion, you realize people are dying over land, but it still has so much value to people, and I understand that. But is it worth human life? People are dying on both sides for land. There are people who are suffering in the worst ways possible just so that another group of people can have things. This is a reoccurring story in history, and it's always the poorest people who have to pay the ultimate price. It's so alarming to me that the oppressed can be seen as the oppressor. I've been pondering a question for a really long time. Is possessions and ownership of things worth more than human life? There is something fundamentally wrong with the way we, the people, value things. A bag from Hermes shouldn't cost a mortgage. A bracelet from Cartier shouldn't cost $6,000. A bag from Chanel shouldn't cost $6,000. A luxury brand car shouldn't cost a mortgage. An apartment in New York City shouldn't cost millions of dollars. the value of things are so overvalued. And I feel like things are more valuable than human life. And I feel like more than ever, we have to understand that it's we that allow this to happen. You know, I can sell a pen for $200,000, and if no one buys it, then the value of that pen isn't $200,000 because now I went out of business. But if people start to buy my pen for $200,000, well then guess what? My pen is valued at $200,000. We as people have to understand it's us that is valuing things, and we are overvaluing things. Right now in America, there's a housing bubble. Houses are overvalued, and that's going to bust at some point. How much do we value things, and is it worth human life? I know this is gonna sound so crazy, but I am selling all of my things, and I am wiping out my savings, and I'm gonna travel the world to find out. I'm going to connect with people from all over the world, from different cities, and I want to know and understand what people value, because something's wrong. Something is wrong with the way the world is structured. You know, like sometimes I read comments under videos and people are like, you know what, the Palestinians lost and they need to just pack it up and leave. Like they lost the war, they're losers and they need to leave. People are like, this is just the way the world works, you know? People lose wars and you have to get over it. People will say things that like, you know, it's in human nature to be colonizers, you know? Every country has colonized another country, you know, every country has enslaved people. I genuinely cannot accept that. I do not think that ever in history that human beings wanted war, that human beings wanted to take other people's life. I don't think ever in the history of the world the majority of human beings wanted that. I think it's always been a small group of people who have been deciding these things. I'm gonna travel the world and I'm gonna connect with people from all over the world, and I'm gonna ask them this question: how much do you value your possessions? And is it worth human life? Like, what are you willing to do for things you value? Because there is something so fucked up about how our world is being run. And it seems like people just don't care. Especially people who live in first world countries. It's easy for us to just look away to people suffering. It's almost like we are so desensitized. It's really difficult for me to see people suffer. I've visited my homeland, which is a third world country, and I've seen extreme poverty. My mom escaped war on foot. You know, she left all her belongings behind and she had to escape on foot. I live in the Bronx, and there is systematic racism in our education, in our politics, in our environment. When I see people suffering, I connect on an emotional level. But I also understand how difficult it could possibly be for really rich and privileged people to connect to seeing images or video footage of people suffering and crying and in devastation, because they don't know a single person who's ever lived that life. How can they feel something that they never experienced? People suffering is a world away from them. I want to be able to cultivate a feeling and bring that to you. So I'm gonna start this new series, and I'm gonna go around the world and I'm gonna ask people what they're wearing and what they value and what they would do for it. And I'm gonna take you guys on this journey with me. And I know it probably seems so crazy and so just random, but I really feel like this is something I really feel like I have to do. I'm so over seeing people die and suffer. I'm so over just turning away and going on with my life. Like I know that this is just life, but I feel like I was created to help others. And I've always felt that way. And I feel like I have so many questions, and I'm embarking on this journey, and I'm starting off with this question. And in a year from now, I might be in a whole different space. I might have new questions and new answers, and this experience might be something totally different. And I'm just so open to it. I'm so open to wherever life takes me. I feel so exhilarated and excited, and I'm really ready for this experience in my life, and I really hope that you guys join me. I don't have any expectations from this journey or the outcome of this experience. I just feel like this is something that I have to do, and it's for me, and I don't know where it's going, but that's okay. I just really want to see us as human beings treat each other better. Like, I'm so over us being polarized. We are so polarized that we can't even understand each other. And because we can never understand each other, we can never work together. And because we can never work together, nothing ever gets done. We, the people, have so much power. It's not a small group of people that are running things, it's us. And we're just giving our power away. I would love to know you guys' thoughts on this video. Please leave a comment below, subscribe, thumbs up this video if you enjoyed it. I love reading your comments and just like connecting with you guys, even if it's comments that I don't agree with. I value and respect every single person's viewpoint and opinion, and honestly, I'm just grateful that you watched any of my videos. So thank you guys so much for supporting me. If you're interested in any of my items, check out my Instagram. You can also just buy my items and support me on this trip. So thank you guys. I will see you guys at my very next episode. See you soon. Bye.